What's up, comic and pop culture fans? This is James of Mint Hunter Comics, and today we're talking about the worst things you can do for your comic books. You might be doing these things unknowingly hurting the longevity of your comics. Don't forget about the 25,000 subscriber giveaway coming up. You're going to win Son of the Demon slabbed and raw, and at the 30,000, someone's going to get the first appearance of Vision. Here's what you want to avoid when it comes to your comics. Let's start it off with number one. The first thing I wanted to talk about is don't display raw or slabbed comics next to an open window. My Nightfall wall I've got here that I've had for a couple years now is normally held up by a curtain that comes along here. Well, this is still at my parents' house, and my parents don't like how the curtain looks, and they keep taking it down, despite many times telling them the importance of this. You don't want to do this. Prolonged exposure to sunlight can start to fade your comics. We've all seen what a faded comic looks like. It's not great. You want those colors to pop, and prolonged exposure is going to take that away. Number two is to quarantine and maybe even throw out any mold on your comics. If you've got a comic with a little bit of mold, this one doesn't. First of all, you probably don't want to be holding it with your hands. You don't want to be around it and breathing that in. But also, mold can travel, and mold can go from one comic to another. So you might have one bad apple that spoils the bunch. Unless you can find a specific restorer that even agrees to work on mold, they are out there. They're just kind of few and far between. We haven't really turned a corner on that side of restoration, but they exist. Chances are, if you find or you get a collection where there's a little bit of mold, you got to get that away from the comics immediately, and most of the time, they got to be tossed. Number three, you want to avoid stacking your comics. What you want to do is get them in bag and boards, and you want to have them upright somehow. You can kind of see it on some of these. You get a little spine roll, where the spine starts to roll over to the front. With a lot of new comics, you'll start to see color rub. Don't let them sit stacked, unbagged, and boarded for too long. You can also stagger them. You can have the spines going one way if you just have no bags and boards. That way it's not all the spines on the same side. Still, get those in bags and boards. And that brings me to my next point, which is I would use Silver Age bags and boards on pretty much everything. Obviously, for Golden Age, they're a little bigger. You want to use Golden Age. But why am I saying to use a Silver Age for a modern comic? Well, that's because it's not so tight. Sometimes you get a modern comic and you're fitting it into the bag and board, and it's hugging the sides too much, and it's just too tight. You want to give that comic a little bit of room to breathe. I like getting silver comics because I like having like a centimeter of space around each comic. I also think that helps that if you drop it on the floor or some accident, it's probably going to blunt the bag and board first before it hits the comic. So it's just another level of protection that you can do to ensure the safety of your books. Next up is one that a lot of people don't know about or just ignore, and it's having to do with humidity. You want to make sure that you don't go below 30 relative humidity or 40 at the high relative humidity. So a lot of times people in Florida or high humidity areas, that's too high of a humidity, and you want to make sure that it's in a room that's not experiencing all that. When it's too low of a humidity, that can also be damaging over a long amount of time as well, which also coincides with my next point, which is get it out of the garage. I buy collections all the time, and whenever it's a garage or an attic collection, a lot of times it gets more exposure to elements than you think. It at least gets exposure to temperature changes much more than you'd think. But specifically, the garage is bad because sometimes you have tools, sports equipment, and cars will bring in dust and mud. And even if it's in bags and boards, you don't want all that mud and dust circulating around your books. Not to mention, sometimes you get mice bites and little certain creatures burrowing into the comics over a long amount of time, so you just need to get it out of the garage. Get that into the house, the wife will understand. And if she doesn't, tell her it's an investment. One of the worst things you can do for your comics is not keeping it organized. Having your comics strewn about the place in no particular order isn't great for a couple reasons. Mainly, if you're trying to find one book, it's a hell of a lot harder to find it. You risk higher humidity. You risk things getting stacked. You risk things getting lost. It's not worth it. It's much better to organize your comics. It doesn't matter how big your collection gets. You have an unorganized stack in the corner, maybe your cat walks over it a few times, causes a couple damages. Next up, make sure you don't use it for paper airplanes. There's plenty of other materials that you can use out there. I like to use simply printer paper, or maybe even a sort of construction paper if you want to see those nice colors. No one's saying you have to use these comics for paper airplanes. And quite frankly, I actually don't think they travel that well when you do it anyway. Next up, I would not use it as a ground cloth for your gardens. They actually make specific tarps and cloths that you can get from Lowe's, Home Depot. I'll put a couple links on Amazon where you can find good solutions that don't have to make you use your comic books. Comic books shouldn't be around all that dirt, sand, and soot. And while it looks like it would be a very effective ground tarp for your next patio building project, there are other ways that don't have to damage your comics by doing so. Last one I thought I'd give you today is I would avoid using it in hamburgers. Whether it be modern, Bronze Age, or Golden Age, there are certain delectable smells that come with each one, but it doesn't translate to taste too well. And I specifically find that it's a bad match with hamburgers. It's frankly too big, and I think it competes with the other flavors that you would normally want in a cheeseburger. I actually say you're better off not eating your comic books at all, but don't quote me on that. So there you have it, folks. These are 10 things that you should avoid when it comes to your comic books. This hobby is about enjoying and preserving these books, so there's things you can do to make sure that you're in it for the long run. Anyway, keep on hunting. I will see you at the next video, and stay tuned after the outro to this video. I'm going to be showing you my Dynamite cover that just came in the mail. Alright guys, here it is, the grand reveal. This is the first time I'm actually seeing my own comic book cover for the first time ever. So let's get it out. This is Gargoyles issue number 5. You want to make sure that you talk to your local comic book shop owner to make sure that you get your copy. It's coming out real soon. We've got all the variant covers here. I'm going to save mine for the end. All these gorgeous variant covers that look, frankly, a lot better than mine are also available. But if you want to support Mint Hunter Comics, I do have my own cover that got dropped. And there it is. I am holding my first ever comic book cover right there. It is actually a Neil Adams Superman homage cover. The eagle-eyed viewers spotted that, and I got a bunch here. Anyone who has these, send them to me with a return label. If you send it to me with a returned label, I will sign it for free and send it back to you. Anyone who's got it and you want a signed copy, I will not charge anything. Just make sure you got that return label so I can send it back to you. And that's how I'll do this. I will also see with the local comic book shops if I can do a signing. I know that my local shop just got 100 of these in. And hey, look, I even got the 1 in 7 variant cover. The Virgin variant cover right there, that is. Hey man, maybe this will be worth $6 one day. Who knows? Pretty freaking cool, man. This is a dream come true. So thank you all for your support. I love you all so much. I'm so grateful and humbled for this experience. And frankly, I can't wait to keep churning out more covers. And I want to get back in my prime. I think I can, frankly, do a lot better than this. So I want to get back to that. And I hope you'll join me on that journey. I see good things coming in the future. And just a really positive overall experience. And I thank each and every one of you. I don't say it enough. This channel is my heart and soul, my passion. I can't do what I do without you, especially now that I'm doing it full time. It is just such a blessing that I'm able to do this. So, I feel I'm a little emotional actually, but I will see you all at the next video. Love you.